I'm Josh Carter, and this is Flying for Life. We're heading to Haiti, a nation gripped by gang violence and food insecurity since its president Jovenel Moïse was assassinated 2 years ago. MAF has worked in the country for nearly 40 years, but in April, operations were suspended when Haiti became too dangerous. I'm joined by MAF pilot Eric Fagerland in the capital Port-au-Prince, where MAF has a skeleton crew. An MAF frequent flyer, Dr Janice Cotrone, founder and dean of the Wesleyan University of Haiti School of Nursing, who narrowly missed a bullet and survived armed robbery. Eric, great to welcome you onto the Flying for Life podcast. Now, you've been a pilot in Haiti for 4 years. And since you've been there, I mean, what an experience you've had. I mean, political turmoil everywhere you look now. I mean, MAF's even had to pull out in April just due to the high levels of lawlessness and violence. So before that happened, what did your work look like day to day?
Day to day, all of our families lived in the capital city of Port-au-Prince. Our airplanes are based at the main international airport here. And so we would fly our planes in support of missions. We would fly Monday through Saturday. We would commute down to the airport in the morning. We'd fly our airplanes, and then in the evening go home for dinner. And so it felt like that kind of existence, albeit in a bit of a pressure cooker, 4 years ago. And that pressure cooker has increased now to the level where it's just not really sustainable in terms of security.
So how large was the MAF operation now?
I would say 7 to 8 flights a day would not be atypical. And we would use those in service of anything. You know, our mission is help, hope, and healing, right? So isolated people will know the love of Christ. So that can take the form of taking a missionary family into the interior, or that can take the form of bringing a stroke patient from the interior back in, or honoring a Haitian family by taking a casket to a final place of resting. So just about anything you can imagine an airplane would be, can and could be used for, we would. Carrying food, Bibles, everything, anything. Haiti is very small, but is also very isolated.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. You mentioned the medical help that you provide. And
Yes.
of course,
Mhm.
we've got on the podcast today Dr. Janice as well. Hi, Janice. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for asking.
Now, you've been the Dean of Wesleyan University of Haiti School of Nursing for 11 years. In fact, you created that from scratch, and today it's the #1 school of nursing in the country. Amazing. So, how did you end up doing that in Haiti?
I went to Haiti as a teenager when I was 16 years old on a summer missions trip. I went back again the next summer. I graduated as a registered nurse and took 3 short-term trips to Haiti, and God called me there as a young professional. So I spent many years in the country of Haiti working in our mission hospital, primarily on the island of La Gonave, which is a small island off the coast of mainland Haiti, isolated. But that was where I worked, and I have just crossed the 30-year mark. So Haiti has been my home for a large part of my life. I sensed that the quality of nursing education was not as it should be, and patients were not getting uh, good care. So in 2012, I started working on a 4-year RN program. Our graduates receive a Bachelor of Science degree in nursing, and we are about to accept our 10th class of students.
Can I ask you about La Gonave Island? Because it sounds very remote. Can you kind of explain what it's like there and how big is that part of Haiti?
It's 40 miles long at longest point and 10 miles wide at the widest point, with a backbone of mountains that runs the entire length of the island. The only way to get there in times past was by sailboat. Thanks to MAF, we can now fly back and forth. What would take a half a day now only takes 25 minutes. The island depends on the mainland for everything, for food. They depend on it for supplies. The hospital and nursing school depend on the mainland or the capital city for medications, supplies, etc. And because those are just not available there. So if we don't have the ability to travel back and forth to the island, the 140,000 people who live there are compromised in every way.
Wow, sounds amazing. I mean, so different. Is it that different from the main part of Haiti? Maybe Eric, you could answer that. What kind of paint us a picture of the rest of Haiti, if you like? How different is it to the island?
The east-west running end of Haiti is very mountainous, very green, very lush, almost before I had ever been to Haiti, like I thought Haiti would be, right? Banana trees everywhere, that kind of thing. And then as you move further towards the north and to the west, very dry, very desert-like, cacti everywhere, feels and salt ponds, things that you feel like you're in a whole different country. And this is a small, a very small portion of an actual island. The island of Hispaniola is the country of Haiti. And then so that's already remote. And then, like Janice is saying, then you go to an island off of an island. And that just by definition restricts you because of the body of water you have to go across. And the opportunity to find fresh water on a relatively small rock in the middle of the ocean there is challenging as well. So yeah, it's very different. And and the island of Lagonave does not have what would be the larger towns. Like Port-au-Prince has about 2 million people in it. So it's very dense, populous, but it's also where the main ports come in and where you can get goods shipped in and things like that. So the island of Lagonave does not have those big ports. Everything comes over in smaller boats, and you just don't have the benefit of that access.
Now, I've been mentioning the political situation. I mean, what's happened is you've got no official government there or elected official since the president was actually assassinated back in July 2021, and there's not been any elections since his death. And as a result of that, criminal gangs really have kind of taken over the capital, haven't they? And have been pirating the seas. So, really, a question to both of you: what has that been like, and why do you think that lawlessness is so high?
The gangs have stepped into a vacuum. So you lose your executive, you lose the legislature. The national police are underfunded, undertrained, and you have a lot of young folks with a lot of weapons, essentially. So they were able to step into that gap, and no one was able to tell them no, because they're much more numerous and much have many more weapons than the local police would. And so they found, especially, and they're very desperate. So in a desperate place where everyone is scrambling for survival and for resources, having a gun and being able to take those for yourself starts to look more attractive, and you can band together and do that in mass. So I really think that's why you see that uptick in gang violence and gang influence. Is they're looking to influence to get resources for themselves out of the local area. Unfortunately, a lot by kidnapping, by extortion, and lots of horrible things, honestly.
And Janice, let's just bring you in now because you've experienced some of these horrible things that we've just been hearing about there. Tell us about that.
I had two instances. One was in a robbery attempt. I was going into the capital city to buy medication, a monthly drug order, and supplies for the hospital. This was before I worked for the School of Nursing. And someone held up the vehicle that I was in. I was holding my purse in my hand, and I had the equivalent of 2,000 US dollars to buy medications and supplies with. And I just prayed that there were three men. Two of them were ripping up the car looking for money. The other one held an M16 right in my back. And I have my purse with the money in it that I held right in front of me. And I just prayed for the Lord to make that purse invisible. And I think I think he did. So I talked to the man with the gun in my back. I started talking with him about his family to try to diffuse the situation. And it wasn't long before he put the gun down. I talked to him about his garden, about his children, and etc. And he put the gun down. Well, then they had the car torn apart. They had the seats out. They had the carpet ripped up. And I said, "No, you're not going to turn that car back over to me like that. You took it apart. You put it back together again." And they did. They did. So I went I went on my
Wow.
merry way. Another time I was shot at point blank from a main street going up Port-au-Prince, a street that is full of shops and markets and people. And I was sitting in the passenger side going up the street close to the sidewalk on the side, and a man came and pulled out a handgun and immediately started shooting at the vehicle. He missed the vehicle, he missed me. And I don't understand that, because anyone that was that close should have been able to hit at least the tire, but he didn't. And I think the angels of God were protecting the vehicle that day. So nothing happened. And I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think it was the Holy Spirit leading you to start talking about his garden? I mean, I don't think many of us would be thinking about that with a gun, poking into our back. Do you think that was God guiding you?
Oh, I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. But for some reason, I was not afraid. I really did not think he would have the nerve to pull the trigger, but I wasn't going to find out.
No, no, you
So
could,
what
yeah.
good? What good is a dead missionary?
Well, you called his bluff successfully. Eric, let me just bring you back in now. I mean, this sounds like an incredible story, but this is actually quite commonplace, isn't it, as to what's currently going on in that country?
That's unfortunately true. There's so many stories just like that of people getting stopped, people getting pulled over. Our own staff, one of our airstrip agents got kidnapped for about 10 days and released eventually. We've had guys that have been held up by gunpoint and all of their things stolen. We had another one of our local staff members get stopped in the street, held up by 7 guys with guns. He wasn't sure which way it was going to go. He prayed, God help me, and he started running. And he started running, crisscrossing in the street, and they were shooting at him. And he was running back and forth and back and forth, and they hopped on motorcycles, and he just kept running, and he kept weaving in between houses, because we're in an urban environment here, if you will, and eventually was able to get away from those guys. But 7 guys with guns, and it's just, and this Haitians against Haitians.
Yeah, and what's that doing for the wider society in terms of poverty?
The main word would just be hopelessness. I mean, whoever you talk to, it just feels like they feel there's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's no way out. There's no one coming to help, and they don't see a way through. They just see it getting worse. And it's hard to argue that point in the natural, right? Because there is no government to save them. It doesn't exist. There's no police force to help them. They are at their own devices.
That is very true. And there's a great deal of food insecurity right now. Farmers have crops sitting in the field, but they can't get them to market because they're afraid of being kidnapped or killed on the way to the market, or people going to market are afraid of being kidnapped or killed or robbed before they get back home. And I've heard the saddest stories of acres and acres of crops that are just rotting in the fields, or rats or goats are eating things, but people are hungry. Um, the the government or the elected officials, there has not been an election in about 6 years now, and so everyone's term has expired. And the as you mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, the president was assassinated 2 years ago. The prime minister has left the country, and so there, like Eric said, there's a vacuum, and the gangs are filling that vacuum, and people are very, very fearful that a gang leader will become the next president.
And Eric, I've heard stories about many bodies on the streets in Haiti because people are too concerned to go and remove the bodies and to be associated with those who have been killed. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. So on and I wouldn't say maybe an average drive, but it's just not uncommon to drive by someone laying face down in the road, blood around, and to know and to see evidence of violence, and to just drive by. And I remember asking one of our Haitian staff, why is he just lying there? He's not even covered up. And the Haitian staff member said, oh, he must have been a bad guy, because if it was a family member, there would be respect and they would cover them up. A bandit in the street is less than trash, and no one wants to be associated with that. So you can see a body just lying in the street for quite some time.
So you guys have obviously, in Haiti, you've been in Haiti and potentially, put your families in danger because of your work. How do you kind of balance that whole thing?
Yes, security instances are on the rise, and there is danger here. And we don't want to do anything foolishly, but we also know that there is a need here. There's plenty of need here. And if we don't fulfill it, then who will? We also believe that God has called us here, again, not to be cavalier, but that we can be here sustainably and take care of our families and be safe and still help. And so we walk forward daily in prayer. And I really think of a mental image as almost walking forward, hands open, just to say, God, we're not trying to be pig-headed here. We're not trying to push into some place we're not supposed to be. If we're not supposed to be here, lead us away. But until you close doors for us and you show us that we need to be someplace else, we do need to be here, and we're going to walk forward in faith.
Amen.
Yeah, let me ask you as well now about any security training that you may have had or not had as a result of everything that's been going on around you. Did you feel prepared for what happened, Eric?
Yes, MAF does a great job. First of all, in your initial training, all of our staff go through security training with a company called Concilium, and it's pretty intense, honestly. It's weapons with blanks. They teach defensive driving, put your head down, throw it in reverse, and step on the gas. They put you in hostage training kinds of situations or vehicle taking kinds of situations. These are pretty intense and very realistic. And these are former military guys that are training you. So that's phase one. And MAF was wise enough, I think, as well to do that again. Normally you wouldn't do that on the field, but um, as the security instances were getting worse and families were still here, they had that company come back out again and give us some local specific training in Haiti as well, especially to counter the kidnapping threat. So you never feel 100% prepared for everything, but I would say that training at least shows you this is serious and give you some tools to be vigilant and also feel like, again, that you're walking forward wisely and doing the things that you can to keep yourself safe, but knowing that in the end it's God's hand. You will never know everything you don't know, but that it gives you the tools to be able to say, okay, I can take care of what I know of, and I can live here for the long term, depending on those skills.
Well, it sounds pretty intense, Eric. Have you ever had to put any of that into action?
I would say yes, especially when protests come and roads get locked down in the capital city. Even over the last 4 years, before the rise of the gangs, locals will protest their government by blocking streets, throwing rocks, burning tires, that kind of thing. And so those driving skills certainly helped and allow you to help keep a cool head, right? And because what you feel is you end up getting bottlenecked. You'll take option one and there's burning tires across the road, and you'll make a U-turn, and you'll take option two and there's guys throwing rocks, and then you'd make another U-turn. And so you feel like you're kind of getting stuck in an area. And so just keeping your head and knowing that you don't need to push through those situations and to find a way out was really vital.
Sounds pretty terrifying, if you ask me, Eric, I must say. And hats off to you for remaining there. Janice, how about you? Any security training for you on the island when you were there?
No, not on the island. We have our church has a set protocol for when something happens, various situations happen, how to diffuse the situation. And I did that when I was held up at gunpoint that time. And I'm thankful for that.
Very
But
successfully
we're
as well, Janice.
we're not in the same situation because we're not in the capital city. I'm in an isolated remote location. And so we don't have what exists on the island is just petty thievery, especially as schools begin to open and people are looking for money to send their kids to school for tuition, for uniforms, etc. So you'll have that sort of thing. But there also is some um, within the culture. There's a vengeance, get back, get even tendency, but we're not involved in any of that. So you just stay out of the crossfire and you try to be street smart. And when you're out and about, we're not out at night. We're not out. We don't walk the streets after dark, etc. But as far as what Eric is talking about, which absolutely exists on the mainland, we don't have that kind of danger to that level on the island. No.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine when I'm talking to you from the UK, and we've obviously got the rule of law in place, and you just cannot imagine that kind of thing happening. Now, Eric, I know MAF has formally suspended its operations because of all of this in April, but I'm talking to you from you're in Haiti, so you're still there despite everything going on. Why are you still there? What's happening?
I am still here because yes, MAF has stood down our flight operations, but we haven't closed. So, in fact, we're we're actively trying to fight that impression that MAF has shut down. We've just stopped flying, but we have not stopped our operation in that sense. So we still have 14 local staff members here. We have leases to pay. We have plenty of work to do here. And so I am here helping oversee the operation here in Haiti.
So, Eric, let me ask you about having to live in the hangar. What's all that about? Is that happening right now?
That is, I'm in the hangar right now, in an office. My bed is in a conference room about 20 feet away, an inflatable mattress. Yes, I do live in the hangar. So when September happened and we decided to evacuate our families out, another part of that was our pilots and mechanics would move down into the hangar and live here because here locally in Port-au-Prince, the largest risk is being out on the streets and kidnapping. And that is still true. So to reduce that risk level of having to commute to and from our houses, we said, all right, we will start living at the hangar. The hangar isn't really built for that, so it's cots and a microwave, and we have a fridge, but it's camping inside, if you will. So yes, I live right next to the airplane we have here, and the commute to work is very short. I roll out, I brush my teeth about 10 feet away. I put on my work clothes, and there I am. So at least the commute is short. But yes, I've been living at the hangar here since September.
It sounds like student living all over again.
It basically is ramen noodles and blow up mattresses in my future.
Yeah, Dr. Janice, I know that you've been forced to leave the country. What was that like for you? That must have been so difficult.
It was horrible, and it still is. Haiti has been my home for so long, and on the island, the people there are my family, literally. And like for instance, the students at the school, I've told you I just crossed the 30-year mark of working in Haiti. And my students are in their early 20s or their late teens if they're freshmen. And they will say, "You're more Haitian than we are because you lived in Haiti longer than we have." And they're right. So it's like leaving your heart and not being able to go back and get it. And Haiti has been my life for so long. Fortunately, I can still do my job, but I do it online. I do it electronically. I teach. I just before this podcast, I finished teaching a class of seniors, and I can see them. I can talk with them. I can have faculty meetings. I can have individual student conferences. I just can't be there. And as a hands-on person, I like to hug the students and tell them how proud I am of them. I want to be at graduation. Last Sunday, our sophomore nursing female students got their nurses caps, and our male students, they get a gold lapel cross pin. They all get their white coats, and I could not be there physically. So it tears my heart out, but I can't help that.
Now, Janice, I know that just before you had to leave, you actually managed to book one of the last flights to the island with MAF to provide important things for your students. So what were those things, and why was that so vital?
I had already been pulled out, but the end of March, and I had thousands of dollars of textbooks and supplies for the school nursing, and there was no way to get them to the island other than MAF. And fortunately, Eric, bless his heart, he okayed that flight that sent those textbooks. They were OB textbooks, new ones, and medical surgical nursing new textbooks, as well as many supplies for the skills lab. Our students have to learn 150 nursing skills. They have to master them. And so there were supplies going over that the students would not have had to work with and to learn those skills had those items not gone. So I was so When I finally got the word from Eric that he had approved the flight going over, I had tears in my eyes. I was so thankful that everything got there safely.
Eric, what's it like hearing that?
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, that's why we're here. So to hear that impact, and that was a very difficult time for us because we knew we were having to stop flight ops on the 1st of April. And so we definitely had a prioritization issue, right? We had to choose carefully and very intentionally who would get supported all the way through till April 1st. And there's much, much, much more demand than we could ever fill. So being able to hear that explanation out of Janice and know what this flight was for, she made it easy on us to be able to accept that one because knowing the kind of work she does and knowing what we're supporting, I mean, that is the heart of MAF. That's why we're here. And to help enable folks like Janice bring help, hope, and healing into those isolated areas. I wish, we obviously wish we were doing it today.
I'm just very grateful to Eric. I'm very grateful he approved that that shipment of supplies back in March. And I'll be very anxious when MAF returns.
And Janice, I'm right in thinking, Otto, that it's not safe to travel by boat to the island at the moment at all because of the pirates at sea. Can you explain a bit about that?
That is true. The islanders depend on the mainland for food and supplies and school books, etc., school supplies for children. The market vendors go back and forth. They'll go to the island, go to the mainland to purchase things, go back to the island and sell them. And gangs have figured that out, that they can pirate those boats, rob them of their supplies or money. And a number of boats have been capsized and burned.
Wow, I mean, it's just it's so difficult to kind of get your head around, really, that you can't even travel by sea, which you would hope would be, reasonably safe. Eric, was there a particular moment that triggered MAF having to change its operations, and likewise Janice as well, for you having to leave? What was the actual kind of thing that happened where it just got too dangerous?
There wasn't one single event, having been here for 4 years, that it just kept getting worse and worse. And the it is not only the security incidents in terms of kidnapping, for one, that was high on the list. Um, what that group of 9 gangs also did back around August, September timeframe is they blocked the main fuel port coming into the country. And so, and this country does not have trains, and it doesn't really have aerial supply. It really depends on trucks, and it doesn't have a good electrical system. So grocery stores and hospitals depend on generators that depend on diesel, and all of these things started shutting down. So right around August, September timeframe for us here in Port-au-Prince was when we started noticing our lifelines, if you will, food supply, medical care, even be able to get out on the roads was getting restricted. So then that draws our families into lockdown, into homes, where you're using your own food supply and your own water, and those start to dwindle. So there comes a point where you just say, you know what, we're basically essentially under lockdown here and we are ineffective. Do we need to be ineffective here, or should we just put ourselves back in the US for a time and wait for conditions to change? We had to then reassess and decide that in April we had to stop flying.
Yeah, it must have been such a difficult decision. And Janice, likewise for you, who made the decision that you had to leave?
The director of our mission board, Global Partners, and our risk management team, they pulled us out when MAF decided to stop flying. That was really that was a game changer. And none of us will go back in until there is stability and MAF is flying again.
So MAF is that important, Janice, to what you're doing?
MAF is that important. There's no other way to get to the island. So there is a UN helicopter that does some humanitarian trips, but it's very undependable.
Why is it that you can depend so much on MAF?
They are a wonderful Christian organization. They've been there, they have longevity. They've been there for so long. They take care of their airplanes, where there are some other pilots in country who do not maintain their planes. The MAF is there when you need them. I have a son who would not be here today had it not been for MAF. Many years ago, my son, we were living in Port-au-Prince, and he had malaria and typhoid fever. And my husband and I knew that we had to get him to the hospital on the island. No, the other hospitals would not accept him. a pediatrician would not accept him because he had not followed with them. His records were on the island. So MAF flew me out there. I thought we were going to lose him on the way, but thank the Lord we did not. And if it had not been for MAF that day, I would have lost my son. It's an organization I believe in because I've seen both sides of it for so long. I'm so grateful for them.
Amazing to hear that. And in fact, the previous episode of this Flying for Life podcast is all about Medivacs and so many people's experience, just as you've explained there. Eric, what's it like hearing Janice say, about the dependability of MAF, but also it must be so frustrating not to be able to fly and help them in the way that you have been.
Oh, Josh, exactly. Listening to her say that, I'm like, oh, I want to go right now. We literally have an airplane in the hangar that's, 50 feet away from me, but we just can't fly it right now. Hearing that it's wonderful. It really is. And it really validates what would be the difficulties here and just the day to day. It really is a pressure cooker, honestly. The day to day things that you have to go through just to live and work and even survive. Um, uh, it, 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 it asks a toll, but the toll is obviously worth it. When you hear things like that, sometimes you don't even know the passengers that you are supporting and what you are bringing in there. You get to talk to them for a little while, and then they go off into their ministry, and sometimes you don't hear the direct impact that you have, but when you circle back and you hear stories like that from Janice, you go, oh my goodness. Um, it's an incredible feeling to be able to participate in that. And I think that's why we would want to stay as well, despite the danger and despite those kinds of things. People are on the edge of survival here. They're on the edge of a precipice. It takes a little gust of wind or a little poke, and they're over a cliff. Philosophically speaking, of whether it's medical care or food or a shelter, they're just the basics here are hard enough to find. So to be able to make a direct impact into those things and see those with your eyes, people surviving because, or eating because, or having a roof because you helped fly supplies or help bring folks in that are providing those for them, is just it's sustaining.
So do tell us, what is MAF currently doing on the ground then? It can't fly, but what is happening?
Yes, correct. It's all of the administrative stuff like maintaining facilities. We do still have an airplane here that needs to be maintained. We have it. We chose to leave an airplane here in Haiti, even though we're not using it. Um, Possession is 9/10 of the law is very valid in a country like this. So we wanted to make sure that people knew we have an airplane. We have people walking around with MAF vests. We're still a presence, because if you vacate, things will find themselves um, lost or falling into disrepair. So that's really what we're doing now here, is not only maintaining and making sure things physically don't fall into disrepair, but now dreaming into the next phase of what MAF Haiti looks like when we do return.
And what will it take for MAF to go fully back into Haiti? And when will that happen? I'm guessing that's an answer that Janice will be quite interested to hear.
Yes, we're interested as
Yes, she
well.
will.
Really, I would say the priorities are to find better security conditions for our families. So nothing's ever going to be perfect, but we found that living in Port-au-Prince is probably not the best answer right now. So probably families living somewhere other than Port-au-Prince. And it will then take time to figure out what the airplane operation looks like, given that families are not there. So, or next to the airplanes in Port-au-Prince. So, and when does that happen? MAF has told us to expect no earlier than the 1st of January. So that is, we know we will not start flying operations before that.
So, Janice, that's quite a long time to wait before you're going to be back there doing what you love, doing what you want to do. How does that make you feel? What sort of things are not going to be able to happen during that time?
I won't be able to attend graduation of our senior class of students, and that's that's very hard. I can't be there on the ground physically. It's hard to get supplies back and forth. But we're making it. We're making it, and I'm grateful for that. And I would say to Eric, maybe you could make your base of operations on the island because it's pretty quiet out there.
I bet. And honestly, I would say everything's an option. I would say everything is on the table. I mean, Janice, you mentioned the island. Literally, we will consider that.
It's amazing to hear how important MAF is, that you're literally waiting for the charity to get back to what it was doing, and
Yes.
then
Not
you'll
just
be able to
me.
do what you love. I mean, it's just so amazing to hear that.
Isn't it just telling how isolated Haiti is when you have whole organizations saying we will not go in unless there is an airplane available to take us? And that shows you it's a relatively small piece of territory, but it just shows you how isolated things are, how bad the roads are, and how dangerous they are when literally people will say we will not come back unless there's an airplane to take us where we need to go.
Have either of you ever felt like just quitting? This has got too much. Maybe even in the recent months and years of what's gone on, and you just thought, no, I just need to get out of here, or have those thoughts not ever surfaced? Janice, maybe you first.
I have. I'm tired. I've been in Haiti a long time. And people say, well, when are you going to retire? But in my heart, I can't. First, I'm not going to retire until God tells me to retire. But at the same time, I haven't finished my mission. I have not finished what I went there to do. So until then, I will keep going as long as I can keep going, as long as he gives me strength. And I know that sounds like a pat answer, but it's how I live. I live by faith. And if God tells me, he's the one that told me to go in the first place, and he'll tell me when to stop. I just believe that. And he hasn't not said that yet. So I keep going.
And Eric, the same question to you. Have you ever felt like quitting?
Absolutely. I think if someone tells you they haven't, they're either a liar or they're crazy. What's the limit before you just go absolutely crazy? And living here sometimes is like that. You feel you get to the 20, 25, 30 level mosquito bite where I'm sick, I'm tired, there's no power, I can't go out, food's getting low. What's the one next thing? My neighbor is yelling, what's the one next thing that's just going to drive me up a wall? And I think like Janice said, you live by faith, and the key is you're living for something other than yourself. Because if you're living for yourself, it's not worth it. You can go to much more comfortable places and make a lot more money. And this is not a business-friendly environment for sure. So that's not the answer. It's living for something higher than yourself. In this case, God has called us here. So again, it's not a Sunday school answer to say, well, you have to depend on that. Because if you're coming here either with a savior complex, thinking you're going to change everything, or you're here trying to find some sort of personal benefit and some kind of personal growth, you're just going to get frustrated and burned out. So you really have to be committed to walking in faith, giving it to God. Like I said, walking forward, arms open, palms up, saying, God, this day is yours, because we know it can turn rough, and it can be rough for a long time.
Now, let's look forward then into the future when, there's not the political turmoil around. Let me ask a big question to both of you. What's your dream for Haiti? What would you love to see happen? Janice, for you first.
For Haiti to become a developed country. If Haiti could become sustainable, if someone can give them a boost, that's all they need. I would love to see that. Businesses going into the country, education way on the top of the ladder, tourism returning.
And Eric, the same question to you. What would you love to see happen?
It sounds funny, but I would say for Haiti not to need MAF. I sound like I've just dreamed myself out of a job in a ministry, but we're here because transportation is an issue for sure. So I would say item number one would be a thriving local church, where people are discipled, and even a dream of Haiti sending missionaries into the local area, into the region, into the Caribbean. That's dream number one. And dream number two is not to need MAF, because the roads are safe and paved.
Just personally looking to the future now for each of you, what would you like to see happen?
I would like to see the development of a dean from one of our students, one of our graduates, and for the person that sits at the helm to be Haitian. For hospitals to become well equipped where they are not today. My goal was to turn healthcare upside down in Haiti, and I'm thankful that our graduates are doing that. But we don't have enough of them. There are far too few when you look at the whole country. In the United States where I am, there's one registered nurse for every 115 people. In Haiti, it's one registered nurse for every 9,000 people. And that is not a good enough statistic for me. And I will not stop. I will keep going until that changes.
Eric, any prayer pointers from you for us?
That we come back wisely. So we're looking for that discernment to be able to provide that sustainability for our families and for our operation to be able to stick it out for the long term.
And that's all we have time for in this episode. My big thanks to MAF pilot Eric Fagerland and Dr Janice Cotrone, founder and dean of the Wesleyan University of Haiti School of Nursing, for that fascinating insight into Haiti. You've been listening to me, Josh Carter, and Flying for Life, MAF UK's podcast. Until next time, bye for now.